My name is Thea Clifton and I am 33 years old. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, my mother filed an insurance claim against my company. My company cleans her house. It has cleaned her house for 11 years and it has never once sent her a bill. The claim was $2,400 for a cracked lid on a cedar chest, and she filed it the way you return a sweater. When I called her about it, she was cheerful. She said, "That is what insurance is for, honey." Then she asked what I was bringing on Thanksgiving. I said pies. I always bring pies, but the claim was not the worst thing my mother did that month. What she said 9 days later at her own dinner table, standing up, holding a glass in front of 14 guests, was worse, and my sister was sitting 3 feet away when she said it. What I said back to her ended us. Welcome back to Broken Dad Revenge. This is where we sit with the quiet ones. The women who kept everything running until the day they finally set it down. Every story here is about the moment somebody stopped asking to be counted. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. The shop opens at 5:40. It's Elise Bay on Bushkill Drive in Easton, 2 doors down from a place that rebuilds transmissions. And it smells like lemon and wet cotton no matter what season it is. Leila Quintero starts the coffee at 5:15 because she doesn't trust me to make it strong enough. And she's right about that. By the time I unlock the office, 4 vans are backed in and the whiteboard is already half filled. 14 names on that board, 14 households that eat because those vans go out. I check the glove box of van 1 before I check anything else. The way other people check for their wallet. The folded paper in there is a $25,000 janitorial service bond issued by Saucon Mutual. And it's the reason a hospital wing will let my people carry keys. Hugo Nazario told me van 3 had a bearing noise on the Hellertown run. Cora Fenstermacher was wrapping her left knee on the tailgate with the same roll of tape she's used since September. And when I asked her about it, she said the knee was fine and the tape was for the boot. Cora is 58. She's been cleaning houses since she was 22. Longer than my sister has been in school for anything. Every line on that board had a customer code beside it. Every line but one. Fernbrook Street had no code at all, because Fernbrook Street had never generated an invoice in 11 years. And nobody in that shop had ever asked me why Wednesdays I do room 214 myself. Larkhill Memory Care sits on a rise off Schoonersville Road in Bethlehem. And their housekeeping contract puts baseboards on a 90-day rotation, which is fine for a hallway and not fine for a woman who eats crackers in a recliner. So I bring my own caddy. I do the sills, the rails, the underside of the tray table where the apple juice dries into a ring, and I change the shelf liner in the closet because my grandmother has always folded her cardigans a particular way. And I'm not going to be the reason she can't find them. Her name is Rosalie Vandegrift. She's 88. On a good afternoon, she surfaces for 4 or 5 minutes. And you learn not to spend those minutes on questions. That Wednesday she surfaced while I was wiping the window ledge. She watched me for a while, then she said my name correctly, first try, and said the cardigans go on the left because the light comes from the right. I told her I remembered. She patted the arm of the chair twice and said the thing she said to me since I was 9 years old. In the voice of a woman handing over a set of tools, "You're the one who knows where things go." I put the rag down for a second so my hands would stay steady out at the desk. The charge nurse stopped me on the way past, friendly, half apologetic, and said my mother had come by Monday and updated some paperwork. I asked which paperwork. She said she'd have to look. Then a call light went off down the hall and she went. Sunday dinner at my mother's house on Fernbrook Street starts at 4, and I get there at 20 past 3. Because somebody has to preheat. My mother, Bernice, is 63, and she runs that dining room like a small, well-loved country. She had the good tablecloth out, which meant Adrian was coming. My sister Adrian is 36, a physician internal medicine over at Willow Run in Allentown. And my mother recites her week to the room the way other people read the weather. There was a difficult case Tuesday. There was a thank you card from a family in Cooppersburg. There was a conference in the spring, and my mother said the word asked, like it had a serif on it. I peeled potatoes at the sink with my back to all of it, which is where I do my best listening. At some point Aunt Charlene asked how the business was going, and my mother answered before I could. She said, "Thea's little thing keeps her plenty busy." Little thing, 4 vans and a payroll. I said it was going fine, because arguing about the size of my company at my mother's sink has never once made it bigger. Then I looked over and saw my sister asleep. not resting, asleep, upright with a fork in her hand. For maybe 20 seconds, and when she came out of it, she apologized to the whole table like she'd committed a crime. Nobody else noticed. I noticed later. I started clearing plates. And my mother put 2 fingers on my wrist, warm as anything, and said, "Don't start the dishes yet, honey. Let people see the table." So I sat back down and let people see the table. People hear cleaning company and picture a woman with a bucket, and they're not wrong. They're just early. I started at 19 with a bucket and a 2004 Corolla and a flyer I printed at the library. I filed the LLC in 2016. 10 years later, there are 14 people on payroll. Everyone a real employee, workers' comp from the first hire, $1 million in general liability, the bond in the glove box. A lease on the Bushkill Bay through 2029 that I signed personally, which means if the vans stop, they don't come for the company, they come for me. None of this makes me rich. I want to be clear about that. Because later on people are going to hear the end of this story and assume there was money hiding somewhere. There wasn't. There was a checking account that has to clear a payroll every other Friday. And a phone that rings when a hot water heater lets go in somebody's basement at 9 at night. Everything I own is a promise I made to somebody else. That's the part my mother never understood. And it's also, I think now, the part she understood better than anyone at my sister's housewarming. My mother introduced me to the senior physician at the practice while standing 2 feet away with a glass of wine. She said, "Oh, Thea takes care of houses. She's wonderful with older clients." Then she moved him toward the sunroom. I went to get more ice. Adrienne followed me into the pantry, shut the door most of the way, stood there with her back against the shelves, and said, "I didn't ask her to do that." I said, "I know." She said, "I would have paid you." I said, "I know that too." Then she said something she'd never said to me before, flat, like she was reading a lab value. "I don't sleep, Thea." I asked how long. She said, "Since June at Larkhill's Care Conference." 10 people sat around a table with a fake fireplace. And the social worker addressed roughly everything to Adrienne: medication review, fall risk, hospice benchmarks in the spring. My sister answered carefully and kept glancing at me. Because she's not stupid. And because she's been in that room maybe 9 times in 4 years. I've been in that room every Wednesday since 2022. Nobody asked me anything. At the end I handed the floor nurse the care sheet I keep in my own handwriting. 1 page laminated. She looked at it, looked at the front desk, and said in a careful voice she'd have to check who was allowed to accept this now. The next Wednesday the girl at the front desk couldn't find me on the list. Authorized visitors. 4 names: my mother, my father, Adrienne, Grant. I stood in a memory care lobby holding a bucket. I called my mother from the parking lot and kept my voice level. She was pleasant. Said she'd simplified the contact list because there were too many cooks. She's held my grandmother's power of attorney since 2021, signed while she still had capacity, witnessed. Notarized. Entirely correct. I asked her plainly to put me back on. She said, "Honey, Adrienne is the doctor. If there's ever a decision at 2 in the morning, they need 1 person to call." I said that was about decisions and I was talking about Wednesdays, and she said it again. The exact same warm voice from the luncheon: "There's work you mention and work you don't." Then she said she had to go. The roast. I sat in the van for a while with the engine off. I took my key ring out of my coat pocket, and for the first time in 11 years, I actually looked at it. "That's where I have to leave you today." What my mother said 9 days later, standing up with that glass in front of 14 people, is coming next, and what I said back to her is the part that ended us. Subscribe so you don't miss it.